Be honest with me. Would you want the Raiders to trade for Bears quarterback Justin Fields? Yes or no? My answer is going to be coming up here today on the Raiders Report. Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report, and coming up on today's show, multiple Raiders players have told me that they want the Raiders to try to trade for Justin Fields in 2024. And a lot of people watched this show before, and I've given my answer on the whole Justin Fields to the Las Vegas Raiders thing before, but I do think that I talked to a lot of Raiders players that told me that they want Josh McDaniels fired. A week later, he ends up getting fired. Now I got multiple Raiders players telling me that Justin Fields would be looking really nice in silver and black. So here's coming up on today. I'm going to tell you some quotes that I got from some Raiders guys and why it makes sense and why it doesn't make sense for the Raiders to try to go out and get the Bears QB. So for those of you that don't know, some background information here on Fields. He was selected 11th overall in the 2021 NFL Draft, and next year is the final year of his rookie deal unless he gets a fifth-year extension. Bears right now hold the number 1 and number 5 pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, and the reason why that means something is because you got Caleb Williams, you got Drake Maye, you got Jayden Daniels. You have an opportunity to get a brand new quarterback, and for the Bears, they would have picked number 1 last year, and right now they're right there at the top with Justin Fields as their quarterback. And I understand that QB is not a position that I think deserves wins or losses, right? We talked about it all the time with Derek Carr. Derek Carr is a much better quarterback than what his win-loss record indicates. However, I do think that you need to be able to find a leader of men to be that great quarterback. Was Derek Carr a leader of men in the huddle? I don't know. Is Justin Fields a leader of men in the huddle? I don't know. But what I do know is Fields does have talent, and you can't say that he doesn't. When you look at some of his numbers from the past 4 years, and just so you know, the numbers down at the bottom in 2020 are his numbers from college. This was in 8 games played. But I really want to look at the numbers from the NFL, right? Like this season, a 63.5% completion percentage, which I literally think is just solely the fact that they finally gave him a number 1 receiver in DJ Moore. And what's one thing that I always say on the show? I want to see a QB that shows me that he gets better and better and better. And Fields, as a rookie, was not a good thrower. Bad offensive line, didn't have a lot of options around him. 2022, all right, a little bit better. You saw him start to use his legs more. This year, Fields has clearly been the best season that he's had in terms of being able to throw the football, but it's also because he has more talent around him. And compared to what the Raiders could give him, that would be a really, really fun and entertaining offense there with Justin Fields. But it's not only that. It's his ability to run the football. And this season, he hasn't run it nearly as much as he did last season. But last season, there's a reason why they called him Ferrari Fields. 1,143 rushing yards, 8 touchdowns. I do not think that it's smart for a quarterback to run that much, especially if he's trying to get one of these mega deals that QBs get in today's league. But for the Las Vegas Raiders, in a very interesting situation right now, because at the moment that I am making this video, the Silver and Black are picking number 12 in the NFL Draft. I don't know if Jayden Daniels is going to be there. I don't know if a guy like Caleb Williams, Drake Maye, you're going to have to trade a lot of picks to go up and get them. What I do know is if you want to go a little bit of a cheaper route and take a 1-year type of rental, would you trade for Fields? Because if the Raiders end up trading for him, sure, you're going to have to give up some draft capital, but it's only going to cost $2.77 million against the cap for the Las Vegas Raiders in 2024. I mean, that's not a lot of money for a QB for you to be able to see what he is. And then if he has a good year in 2024, then you can extend him in 2025 because you could give him that 5th-year option. So the Raider players that I talked to, okay, I was in a group chat and I was talking to a few of the guys, and they made it very clear to me that they want a mobile quarterback. One of the Raiders that I talked to said that Fields is nice AF. And talking to these dudes, it wasn't that they were like, oh, I don't want Aidan O'Connell, but these players are starting to realize, and they're going up against these athletes all the time, and they're going up against, a quarterback like Aidan, Jimmy G, Brian Hoyer at practice. But the players, they love Aidan. They think he's a great dude. They do think that a little bit of competition is never a bad thing. But one player told me, in today's NFL, you need to be able to move. And it wasn't only just being able to move in the pockets, being able to pick up some of those yards with your legs when nothing is open. That is what I do think defensive-minded coaches fear the most. It's what a lot of defenders fear the most. And when you have a guy like Fields that does have that athletic ability that, I'm sorry, Aidan O'Connell is never going to have. Maybe Aidan's a better thrower than Justin Fields. I think you can at least make an argument on that. But in terms of overall athlete, Justin Fields is clearly a better athlete. And now that Raiders players have made it known that Fields would be a player that they would welcome into this team with Champ Kelly, who was one of the people that was part of the regime that drafted Fields. I think anybody out there that thinks Justin Fields to Las Vegas is not possible, you better wake up, man, because this is a rumor that is starting to get more and more smoke. And you guys know what we say here. If the Raiders do end up trading for Justin Fields this offseason, we will go live. So make sure you're subscribed to the show. Make sure you got those notifications turned on. And anytime big-time news happens, I do my best here to keep you guys up to date. I know that people doubted when I said that Raiders players were totally out on McDaniels, and they're probably going to have a lot of people doubt me on this one. But I don't make shows on here for clickbait. I don't do that kind of stuff. I tell you exactly what I hear, and then I give you my opinion on it. And if you don't think that this is real, hey, all I can say is haters, they're going to hate. So here's a quote coming in here from an anonymous Raiders player overall. And this, I should mention, was right before the Raiders-Chargers game on Thursday Night Football. He said to me, "I know fans want to tank and shit, but players aren't built like that. We want to go 4-0, see what happens. Plus, I'd rather have Justin Fields over any quarterback in the draft, but I don't see Chicago trading him." My take on this is this. I do think wanting Justin Fields over Drake Maye, Caleb Williams, and Jayden Daniels is wild to me. And I do also say, though, that there are a lot of NFL players that I've talked to. There's a lot of people inside the league that value Fields a lot more than people who are outside of the league, because I think it's one of those things, you don't understand how talented or athletic a guy is until you're literally going up next to him. And there's a lot of people in the league that think if Fields was in a better situation, he'd be a much more successful quarterback. The quarterback that I want you to think about is Jalen Hurts, because honestly, I don't think that there's that much difference. The biggest difference is Philadelphia has built an offense around Jalen Hurts. Chicago Bears haven't done that. And he's gotten better and better. And I am curious, if you were to put Justin Fields in an offense with Devontae Adams, Michael Mayer, Kobe Myers, maybe Hunter Renfrow, what exactly could he do? I know one thing, it would be definitely interesting, but the fact that a few Raiders players want Justin Fields, I definitely want you all to start keeping attention and watching a lot of the rumor mills, watching a lot of the smoke out there, because he might be a Raider in 2024. Coming up next here on the show, why it would and why it wouldn't make sense for the Raiders to go out and trade for the Bears quarterback. I'm going to tell you both of those, but first, I do got to show some love to Prize Picks. And for anybody out there that likes fantasy sports, Prize Picks is daily fantasy sports made easy. And for the nation out there, all you got to do is go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and make sure that you use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. That link's going to be available to y'all down in the comments, down in the description of today's show. So Prize Picks is doing 12 days of Picksmas with new promos dropping every single day. And for today, I love this, it's Kicksmas. So I want you to listen up. All you have to do is submit an entry that includes Jake Elliott or Jason Myers and get $5 in promo funds for every field goal made tonight during Monday Night Football. So if anybody out there thinks that, all right, they're going to have one field goal or two field goals, three field goals, four field goals, you're going to have an opportunity to make some money. So today what I decided to do is include Jake Elliott on the more than 1.5 field goals. And then if DK Metcalf, Dallas Goedert, and then A.J. Brown all get the more, and since these are demon picks, it's even more. So what I ended up doing, this is $10 to win $160. And if 4 field goals go through, it's an extra $20. I am so confident that there's going to be 2 field goals made today. 2 field goals made tonight. And if that happens, I get my money back. So it's not just Jake Elliott, it's combined in that game. And that's why I love Prize Picks, because in a game that honestly I don't know how much I'd care all that much about, I have an opportunity to make some money. I'm going to be rooting for some field goals. And if anybody just heard that and you're like, that's a hell of a deal, I agree it is. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Make sure that you use code CLNS for a first-time deposit match up to $100. It's daily fantasy made easy. If you can't do it, to be honest, I don't even know why you're watching this show. All right, y'all, coming up next here, why the Las Vegas Raiders should and why they should not trade for Justin Fields. We are going to start with the pros, then we'll get to the cons here. The reasons why they should trade for Fields. If the top quarterbacks in the draft are gone, like if you're sitting there on draft night and you were really, really hoping that somebody would fall to you, or depending on where you're drafting, I mean, if the Raiders, what if they win their next 3 games, don't make it in the playoffs? Or what if the Raiders win 2 out of 3 games and you're picking in the teens? Maybe you're picking in the low 20s. Even if you're picking at exactly 12 right now, the only way you're getting one of those top quarterbacks is if you trade up. And I'm sorry, I don't want a Bo Nix in round 1. I don't want a Michael Penix Jr. in round 1. I do not want a J.J. McCarthy in round 1. In fact, if you were to ask me, okay, Mitch, where would you rank the top quarterbacks in this year's draft up against Justin Fields? I will disagree with one of the Raiders players that said that he would take Fields over Drake Maye, Caleb Williams, Jayden Daniels, because I do disagree with that. If you told me entering in 2024, you don't have to give up any capital, you can pick who do you want, I will take Drake Maye, Caleb Williams, Jayden Daniels over Justin Fields every single day of the week, and I don't even blink at it. However, though, if you were to tell me, okay, well, then if we're just talking about starting quarterbacks, and if you could maybe get Fields for a second-round pick, well, then what if you had to draft a Michael Penix Jr., Bo Nix, J.J. McCarthy, Carson Beck in round 2? I would rather you trade a second-round pick for Fields instead of going out and drafting Penix, Bo, J.J. in round 2. So I just kind of wanted to show you guys where I'm sitting right now with Fields compared to a lot of these other quarterbacks in the NFL draft. Let's go to the next reason. This is probably the reason why relationships in the NFL are huge. And obviously we talked about it so much because that's how McDaniels was. That's how Dave Ziegler, that's how they operated their team. They wanted to be able to bring in as many Patriots as they possibly could because they knew that they understood the Patriot way and they were hoping they could be able to teach them. In terms of the relationship with Champ Kelly and Justin Fields are very, very close together. They have a great relationship, and Champ was a part of that regime in 2021 that drafted Justin Fields at a number 11 overall. So if the Raiders do end up keeping Antonio Pierce, they do end up keeping Champ Kelly, I'm telling you right now, that it becomes way more of a possibility that the Raiders trade for Fields if Champ Kelly is the GM. Let's go to the next one here. Several important players want him. Obviously, when I say anonymous Raiders players, there's going to be a bunch of people out there that say, Mitch, well, give us the names. I wish I could. If I could, well, then I wouldn't be able to make a show like this. But I'm telling you all this right now. Important players are open to the idea of having Fields as the quarterback. Just like I reported that important players were out on Josh McDaniels. Important players mean so much to this organization because they want to know that they have a good group of men and they have a good group of leaders there. And if the right people go up to Mark Davis and they say certain things and it aligns with Champ Kelly, I'm telling you, the Fields rumors are real. Then Fields may be cheaper overall in a trade. Like, if I told you I can get Justin Fields for a second-round pick or you got to trade 3 first-round picks to get Jayden Daniels, which one are you doing? Like, I mean, I love me some Jayden Daniels, but I'm not going to give up 3 first-round picks for Jayden compared to a second-round pick for Fields. Like, that to me is ludicrous because the last thing that I want is you bringing in a rookie quarterback, then you can't build around him. That's what you cannot afford to have. So to me, that would still make the Raiders a better overall team. And then the final one is this. I do feel like Fields is a great athlete in a bad situation. He's been better and better and better over the past 3 seasons, which he's gotten better as a thrower. But think about all, the turnover. We used to always, and this is the one thing that Derek used to get so much slack for of different head coaches all the time, different offensive coordinators all the time. And I'm going to say it right now. I've said it multiple times on this show, and I've said it more from a defensive side of the football because of all the different defensive coordinators that the Raiders had. But you had Justin Fields a year after COVID. Think about entering the NFL. Think about doing anything the year after COVID. It was not easy at all. Then you get yourself a brand new head coach, get yourself a brand new play caller. Then your entire offense changes. You finally get yourself a number 1 wide receiver. The numbers have been better this season. But if you put a great athlete in a good situation, I think more times than not it's shown in the NFL that good things are going to happen. So Justin Fields to the Raiders, this is why you should trade for him. Coming up next here, I'm going to tell you why the Raiders shouldn't trade for Justin Fields. But I do want to show some love to some real ones out there. And the real ones to me are people that I know watch every show, people that are watching our live show right now, and people that do everything that they can to comment, because that's what this thing is about here. I want us to be a group of friends hanging out at a bar, sharing a few beers, talking a little football. So Jeffrey Kreischer, David Silva, Vincenzo, Silk Made it, Mike Hoffman, I appreciate you guys. And if you want to see yourself on a future Raiders Report show, prove to me that you're watching. The ways to do that, like the video. Hit me up on social media. comment on our live shows. We have over 157,000 subscribers. So when you stick out, I appreciate it because it does help us out, and it also helps me get to know you guys better. All right, so coming up next here is why you don't do it. I laid out why you do trade for Fields, and this is going to be why you don't trade for him. To me, when I think about what do I want in a quarterback, I want a guy that can throw the football. Fields is an average passer at best right now. He is. And if you're going to go out and make this move, you better have the right people around him. You better have a good offensive line. You better have talented receivers. You better have a good tight end that can catch the football, which the Raiders have all these things. On top of that, though, you need to have the right people that believe in him. Champ Kelly believes in him. So he's not going to be afraid to be aggressive, to go out there and help him. But you better make sure that you hire the right head coach. You better make sure that you hire the right offensive coordinator because you need a guy that builds an offense around Fields. What you can't afford to have is Justin Fields fit into a specific offense of your choosing. The next reason here why you shouldn't do it, Drake Maye, Caleb Williams, Jayden Daniels are better. They are better. Now, obviously, this is not accounting into draft capital, but if the Raiders lose their next 3 games, you find yourself back in the top 7, I'd rather than you give up a first-round pick to go up and get one of those guys. Next one is you might have to extend them right away because I'll tell you this, if I'm Fields, and one of the ways that I would do this is, all right, if that new team's going to trade for me, cool, but then I also want you to give me that extension on my 5th year. So you give them that extension. It might have to come exactly right away, and then you're tied to a quarterback that you have never had exactly for 2 years. He hasn't proved that he can win in the NFL. And I know I said earlier that I don't love the idea that quarterback win-loss is always, put on the QB because there's so many different variables to that conversation. However, though, he hasn't been able to prove that Fields can win big games, really can win it all. I mean, right now as a starter in the NFL, he is 9-28. As a starter in the NFL with 0 playoff appearances. And the playoff appearances, that's not always on him, right? But that game that he just had against the Browns, it was rolling in the right direction. And, you watch Fields play sometimes. There's sometimes he's like, this guy is a top 5 quarterback. He's unbelievable. There's other times you're like, oh, my God, it's like bottom 20. Do I want to go on the roller coaster ride again? Because Fields is going to be a roller coaster ride. That I can guarantee it. And the last one, and this is probably the biggest contributor, is Aidan O'Connell showing growth as a legitimate quarterback? Because if the Raiders win their next 3 games, that puts them in a very difficult spot here to go draft a quarterback. If Aidan, though, shows that he can be a franchise QB, because I view Aidan as a backup. I don't view Aidan as a top 32 quarterback when all the QBs are healthy and we're getting, I was going to say spoiled, but it's the exact opposite. There's so much bad quarterback play in the NFL that people look at Aidan, they're like, this guy's a starter in the league. He's not. When you consider all 32 teams with all 32 of their starting quarterbacks, I do not view Aidan as a starter. If he shows that he can play better against good teams, and this is going to be the biggest week he has of his career going up against Kansas City, well, then that's a little bit of a different conversation. So let's say this right now. Let's say Aidan shows a little bit of growth, right? Justin Fields, do you trade for him? All you have to do right now is let's just say you got the pick. No draft capital, no money. It's just Madden style. You pick a quarterback. Would you rather have Aidan O'Connell as your starting QB, or would you rather have Justin Fields as your QB? My answer on this one's going to be after this YouTube ad break. My answer is, even though I like me some Aidan O'Connell, and I think Aidan might be closer to a better passer than Justin Fields, but to me, Fields is clearly the superior quarterback here in this conversation. I will admit, starting to give up the first-round trade talk, like when you got to talk about trade, that's where this conversation changes. But if it is just simply Justin Fields versus Aidan O'Connell, and you're picking Aidan O'Connell, I think you're putting your Raiders beer goggles on, which maybe the same beer goggles that a lot of people had on for DC. But the only way the Raiders are legitimately going to get better is when there's opportunities to improve in the offseason. Doesn't matter what position it is, you got to do it. But especially at the quarterback position. So when a bunch of Raiders players are saying, hey, we want Justin Fields, and then you got Champ Kelly, all I'm saying is it's not totally impossible for Justin Fields to be under center for the Silver and Black next season.